Well, welcome, Grant, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Tad Morose, this new album, March of the Obsequious, and more things related to the metal world. Starting with a common question, and I think a common one: how how are you been during these crazy times? We started a pandemic 2 years ago. Now you are living a war in Europe. So who knows what happened next couple of years? Alien invasion, zombie apocalypse, the machine takes the power.
Yeah, who knows what happened? I think we just do what everybody else is doing, just struggling around and try to make the best out of it. Of course, the pandemic was very boring, no shows to play, no concerts to attend to or anything. But I mean, we did what we could. We wrote new songs, recorded this album. Yeah, just kept on going, so to say. And now with the war in Ukraine and all the crazy shit going around, who knows? But I mean, can't let things like that stop you from doing what you love. So it's just I wouldn't say ignore it, but you can't just focus on all the bad shit happening everywhere because, well, you try to struggle on with your life and try to be as happy as you can anyway. So
Okay. So can we say that this new March of the Obsequious was composed and written during this pandemic, or perhaps wasn't before, or perhaps was it before?
I think we started working on it in 2018, just after the release of Chapter X, the previous album. But then, of course, during the pandemic, since we didn't have any shows to play, we really just met up as much as we could and for practice, and everybody were at their own studios recording their own parts, and yeah, just trying to make the best out of it. So we can say that we did it during the pandemic, I guess.
Okay. Well, I remember Tad Morose since the beginning when you released your first album in 1993, Leaving the Past Behind, when you was a more progressive metal band at that time, and now you changed over the years with Undead, Modus Vivendi, Revenant, Chapter X, and this new March of Obsequious where you are more a heavy power metal stuff. But the curious thing for this new album is that you bring some things for the old stuff from Tad Morose. So into this matter, how do you resume all concept from this March of Obsequious, perhaps as a heavy power metal band since Modus Vivendi, or perhaps you have more progressive stuff into this new album?
Yeah, I think you can say when we started out in the early days, I mean, when you're young and you're a musician, you always kind of strive to make songs that are very hard to play because you think that is really fun. But then when you start playing live and go on tours, you kind of just making it hard for yourself with the weird parts in songs that are hard to play and stuff. So it kind of naturally devolved into kind of more power metal, a bit simpler guitar things and like that, because in the end that sounded better, and we matured as individuals and as musicians as well. But I think over the years, I hope we learn to play our instruments a little bit better, so then we'll start to bring back some crazy stuff into the music as well. So, and I think we kind of learn to hide the weird stuff in a good way in the songs, I think, because some of the parts are not really that easy to play.
Okay. So, as I talking about from the first album, I remember that Leaving in the Past Behind and The Center of the Thoughts are very influenced by the prog for the first wave metal prog, like Sabotage, Queen's Rise, Dream Theater, Fate's Warning. But why the band decided to change their sound from, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because the sounds of the band changed in Mothers of the Dark when you are more a heavy power metal band to date. So what are you decide to change from the progressive metal from the first days to now to be a heavy power metal band?
I think it has a lot to do in the early days of the first albums. It was just me on guitar, and then we had a keyboard player, which kind of added on to that more progressive overall sound or whatever. But then Fredrik, the keyboard player, when he decided that he would quit the band and move to another city due to work and stuff, we thought that, well, should we bring in a new keyboard player or another guitar player? And we kind of ended up with, well, let's go with another guitar player. So that's kind of made it perhaps sound less progressive and more power metal-ish. I don't know. And the development of the music in the band has a lot to do with all the changing of band members as well, because everybody is involved in the songwriting and put their own touch to everything. So it really depends on who is in the band at the moment. It's kind of just natural. We don't set out in advance to write a song in a certain direction or whatever. We just write a bunch of songs, and if we like them, we record them and put them on an album. So we don't really focus on how it sounds or if it's Tad Morose style enough or whatever. We just do it, and in the end it kind of sounds like Tad Morose, I think.
Okay. And according to your history, you are the last member since the beginning when the band created in 1991. So how was this accomplished? Because you have more than 30 years of existence, you have 11 albums now. So, and do you think that when a new member enters the band, changes completely the sound of the band, or perhaps you are like the wolf from Accept told me that he's a gatekeeper from the sound of Accept, and perhaps you are the gatekeeper from the sound from Tad Morose since the beginning to now?
I don't really know, because as I said earlier, I wouldn't say that I'm a gatekeeper of the sound, that if somebody else in the band comes up with an idea, I'm not the guy who says, well, we can't play that because it doesn't sound like Tad Morose. I know it's not the way it works for us, because in the end it will sound like Tad Morose anyway. So, and it's really the other way around, I think, because when you write songs for an album, over the years I kind of learned that the more the songs differ from each other from the start, so to say, when you write them and start to rehearse them and stuff, the album will sound more diverse and more interesting. So we just kind of let everything develop by itself, more or less. So, because even, I mean, when we start to record an album, everybody in the band is kind of like, of course, a little bit worried, kind of like, well, this song's really sticking out and this song sounds pretty weird. And I'm always there and just saying kind of like, doesn't matter, because in the end we all know that it will sound Tad Morose anyway, and I think that's the way it turns out.
Okay. Now, talking about from this new March of the Obsequious, for you, what is the biggest difference that exists compared to the previous work, Chapter X? What is the biggest strength that this album has compared to your previous work?
I think they are pretty similar. Hopefully a little bit better playing and better songwriting, because we have always tried to make it the best we can. And I really like to believe that we kind of develop from album to album. I don't know. Some people perhaps think we just sound the same all the time. I don't really know. But if you ask me, I think, I mean, a little bit better, as I said, played and whatever. Everything, I mean, even the sound is a little bit better, the mixing is a little bit better, and yeah.
Okay. Well, we are living now in times when people prefer to hear just 1, 2, and 3 songs for the digital platforms, especially for iTunes, Spotify, Tidal, etc., and this kind of digital platforms. Yeah. So if we try to relate this aspect with a new album, for you, which song of this new album represent all sensations, all feelings, all music from this new album, talking especially for the new people?
Say again. Sorry, I kind of lost you.
Okay, which songs represent all concept, all sensations from this new album? Talking about one scene in special.
It's hard to pick one song, I believe. I mean, as you said, I mean, a lot of people today just listen first song or first 2 songs or whatever. Well, can't do much about that. I mean, it's just kind of like pick whatever song and listen to it. If you like it, listen to the rest of them, and if you don't like it, well, listen to some other band then.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is your opinion about from the scene into the heavy power metal now? Because you are one of the first bands in Sweden playing this kind of metal, but now there's a lot of productions with this stuff, with these new bands, within labels, with new records. So what is your opinion about now the heavy power metal stuff around the world? It's too saturated, or perhaps you want to prefer one that no one knows?
Well, I don't know what to answer. I don't really have any opinion. I mean, we just do what we like to do. If we were the only band playing this kind of metal, well, fine. If everybody else played the same kind of style, well, fine too. I don't really care, actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, okay. So talking about again from the new Mars of obsequious, one word that captured my attention is the word obsequious, because it's when a person are very thankfully, there's this kind of person very obsequious in the concept of the word. So, but what when I saw the cover art, it's a skull there. So how do you relate the concept from obsequious to the skull into the cover art? Because it's very difficult to relate the aspects, because usually the skull means death, something dark, something very horror aspects. But what I mean when I try to relate with the obsequious part, obsequious is more a thankfully person, so very welcome person, this kind of stuff.
Well, the word obsequious is perhaps different meaning, but I don't know. But it also means that you're easily led, easily guided, so to say.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like March of the Obsequious. I mean, we kind of mean that. I mean, the big mass of people around the world are easily fooled and easily led into whatever the power might be to guide them in a certain direction to suit their own needs or whatever. So that's what we mean. And the skull is kind of like a fun thing, actually, because it's made up of two real items. So far, no one has figured it out. So I don't know when we're going to tell what it's made up about. So you have to be kind of clever to figure it out. You have to look closely and have a kind of a knowledge of certain things to figure it out. So it all kind of sticks together. And also obsequious is a fun word because it's kind of hard to pronounce, I think. So
yeah. Obsequious, yeah. Well, because obsequious is very hard word to pronounce. So we are living in a people with now a lot of reviewers, a lot of the people thinks. Perhaps you hear this. Perhaps you hear about the Thad Morose, this kind of stuff. When people said, or the fans or reviewers said that sorry, about these the first three albums from Thad Morose are the best works to date. According to the fans, according to reviewers, many people say that, or perhaps other people say that is Modus Vivendi, or perhaps is Unmet Rhyme are the biggest stones into their career from the Thad Morose. But a curious and a counterproductive thing is that the band usually thinks that the last work is the best work to date. So what is your opinion about these aspects? For you, which is the best work from Thad Morose to date? Perhaps is the second album, perhaps is, who knows, perhaps is Mothers of the Dark for you, who knows?
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. But as a musician playing in a band, it's kind of hard to pick one. And as you said, usually everybody playing in bands believe that the newest album is the best by far. And in a way it is. But to answer your question, I would say Modus Vivendi for us, thinking back to that album, because back then it was kind of a weird, how can I say, a weird and good vibe within the band, because I mean we were still kind of young, everything was going better and better, gaining more and more success and everything. So we were kind of like really on a roll, so to say. And when that album came out, it got very well received, and we started playing pretty big shows. And but then after that, Urban, the singer on that album, we left the band, and then we just plunged into a very long hiatus with nothing happening for a very long period of time. So it was kind of, I don't know. Other people used to say that Matters, Modus Vivendi was our magnum opus, so to say, our best album, period. I understand that people think that, and as I said, in a way, I kind of agree with them. But I also kind of like that our newest albums are always the best. So it's kind of hard to really. Yeah, I hope you're satisfied with that answer.
Okay. Well, into the discography of the band, one of the aspects is that you release your first 3 albums with Black Mark Productions. Now then you pass to Century Media. Now then you pass to Despots Records, and now you are with GMR Music Productions. So how was the transitions for the first time to stay with Black Mark Productions? Black Mark Productions is one of the greatest underground labels in the 90s to now, but now you were with Century Media, now then Despots Records, and now how was the transition? How is the work with each label to now, and how will be the work with the GM Records, because you are with them with 2 records now?
Yeah, well, when we started out, I mean, there's so many great bands out there that struggles year after year to try to get a record deal. And we were prepared to do that, but we recorded a demo tape, and another band from our hometown, Morgana Le Fay, just got signed to Black Mark and released their first album. So we thought that, well, what the hell, we send the demo tape to Black Mark as well. And I remember when I got home from work, well, how old was I in 92? Well, pretty young anyway. Got home from work and I had a message on my answering machine. I mean, we had those back in the day. And it was Börje, the president of the Black Mark. And he said, well, thank you. We received your demo tape and it sounds great. So please give me a call because we would really like to sign you guys. And I smiled all around, so to say. And then we were on a roller coaster with Black Mark. I mean, there's a lot of bad things to say about Black Mark and a lot of good things as well. But looking back at those years, it still brings a smile to my face. So we had a lot of fun back then. And then we moved from Black Mark to Century Media. And that was a huge step because Century Media is a very big and a very professionally run record company. So that was really a big change for us because then it was for real, so to say, because everything was very professional and you kind of felt that they really believed in the band and they had more money to put into the band and whatever to put us on tours and so on. And then after that long break after Modus Vivendi, when nothing happened, the Century Media wasn't really that interested in recording or releasing new albums with us because they thought that we kind of declined, so we're not that famous anymore. And I can agree with that. And then we start searching for another label, and we just stumbled on Despots Records and released a couple of albums there. And then we moved on to GMR. And I mean, they're very small record companies compared to Century Media, of course, but they do a good job anyway, I think. So I just have to take it for what it is and try to do the best for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, with your 30, more than 30 years of experience into the Ted Morons, into the music industry, you are the last member from Ted Morons since the beginning. What was the most difficult moment that Ted Morons has in your whole career? Which moment say, hey, I left the band, I will left the heavy metal, I will left the musicians, or etc. This kind of experience.
It was, after Modus Vivendi, when Urban decided to leave the band, we just didn't get along any longer. It was unbearable situation. So it just had to happen one way or another. And we just tried to find another singer, but nothing happened. The years passed by. And then we actually had Joe Camo, who sang for Annihilator and also played guitar for Overkill. He flew over to Sweden, and we recorded a couple of demo tapes and played a couple of shows here. But then he lives in Florida in America, and we live here in Sweden. So after a while, it was kind of like, well, nothing was really happening, because he was also touring with as a drum tech for Carl Palmer in Yes, I think he plays. So he was very occupied. So it was really hard to make things work. So I just talked to Joe and said, well, sorry, I love you, guy, but this isn't working. And he kind of agreed with that as well. And so then we were without a singer again. And I remember it was just me and Peter in the band, the drummer we've been in the band since our second album. We were just sitting down and talking, like, well, what the hell should we do? Should we just call it quits and just, fuck this? We cancel Tad Morose. We do nothing more, because we were kind of fed up with everything, because in a way it felt like the harder we tried, the harder it got. So it's kind of like, well, fuck it, let's do something completely different. But then Peter just said to me that, well, we can't just lay the band to rest. What are we supposed to do then? We're kind of like, well, you're right. So, we just love playing our instruments. We just said, well, we just do the best we can, and we took it from there. And here we are, many years and many albums later on, with a new great singer and a great lineup. And we just work hard and do what we love.
Okay, we are very close to in this interview, Grunt. And for that, what are the future plans that the band has for this March of Obsequious? Perhaps more video clips upcoming, perhaps European tours, North American tours, or who knows, and in the near future, a Latin American tour.
We really, really love playing live. That's the reason we started playing in the early days as well, because on stage is where we really like to be. But we got a couple of shows booked here around Sweden and Norway and such countries, but no big tours are booked or anything. We got plans and ideas, but as you said in the beginning of the interview, the world is kind of crazy, and who knows? You see that as well. So many bands book tours, festivals, book bands, and then just have to cancel everything due to whatever. Most lately it's due to this pandemic shit. So who knows if that takes new speed when we come to winter month over here in Northern Europe, that some countries go into lockdown again, and who knows what happens. So we just try to do what best we can and try to play as much live as possible. So
okay. Well, as I said in the first question, we will talk about other matters in general into the music industry. And what is your opinion about the return of the vinyl and the tape for the collectors? Because as you can see, these last 5 years, the vinyl returned strong, and the tapes too. So what is your opinion about this great comeback from these formats?
I think it's, well, that's nice, I think. I'm not a huge vinyl guy. Some of my friends are totally crazy about vinyls. Of course, I still have all the vinyls from when I was a teenager, all the classic albums and so on. But I rarely listen to them. I don't have the time anymore to do that. So it's more convenient with all the digital platforms, so to say. It's faster, easier and everything. But I still I understand the people who are really into vinyls. And I also think it's really nice to have a vinyl in my hand, because it's more of a real item. You can grab onto it, you can look on it, and CDs are kind of boring. They're so small and everything. So it's kind of a lot of nostalgia kicking in as well, because it's kind of like, well, vinyl smell in a different way as well. So I think it's good and very cool that they're gaining in popularity nowadays.
Okay. Well, Grant, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did, and really appreciate for this time. This March of Obsequious is a great one. I really enjoy all album. We We did the review, we posted it on Metalerium.com. So perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metalerium followers?
Well, thank you. Really nice doing this interview. And well, to all the fans and people out there, do as I do when you listen to the album. Just crank it up really loud, and just stay focused and listen carefully to the songs, because then you really hear all the little details, and you feel it when you play it loud. And yeah, well, why not crack up a cold beer as well and just enjoy yourself for 10 songs.